Hi, Christy here with Make Everyday Colorful, and today I wanted to show you the Sonlight's new kindergarten curriculum. They just came out with this year 2020, and it's all new program. So I wanted to give you a peek inside. I have most of everything included in the program. There's a couple books that I do not have. A lot of things were on back order, and I kind of decided to do my own Bible lessons, but I have printouts of everything that I don't physically have a book about to show you. So I'm just gonna jump right in. So the first thing is I'm gonna show you the basically how I'm gonna call this the lesson plans, the instructor's guide, however you want to say it, so you can see my little bookmarks. But so the first thing you would start with would be the Bible. So it says it's the 1-year Bible for children, and since I already have so many children's Bibles, I just kind of decided to opt out of it. I really wanted it, but I really have like a collection of children's Bibles going on, so I'm just kind of doing my own thing. But this is what the 1-year children's Bible looks like. So you would read whatever it tells you to read. For instance, so they go by date because the little Bible goes by date. So this one says March 16th through 18th. So you would read that. And then you have your Bible verse for the week. So what I did is I typed out all of my Bible verses on little index cards, or you can write them out, or however you want to do it. And so we learn a Bible verse every week, even though we're kind of doing our own Bible thing. And then they have the Sing the Word, Teach Me Your Pat CD. So those go along with the Bible scriptures. If you get the Bible and the CD, it goes along with the Bible scriptures. And the CD will look like this. This is the front cover of the CD. So that's a really cool way to teach kids because they're singing it out. So the next thing, I'm just gonna kind of show you real quick how the lesson plans look for everything, and then I'll show you the books. So whenever you get your lesson plans, you can see it's broken down by week, and then it has days and all that. And I did the 4-day, so the 5-day would obviously just have one extra day. And they have this little guide at the bottom, and it says like timeline figures, map, things like that. So when you're reading, for instance, if I'm reading the story, if you lived in colonial times, it has this little map on this day, the little globe. So I know that I have to pull out the map, which is a little wipeable map that they give you. I'm gonna show you real quick what it looks like. So this is a map, and it folds out. So there's, you can see like a bunch of different maps, and it tells you what map to go on and where it's located. Like for instance, we were reading about Indians today, so it told us, go to C7 and on whatever map. I think it was like map 3 and this is map 1, but anyway, just to show you. So it tells you where to go if you're not familiar, because there's a world map, United States map, and then like this. I thought this was really cool. It kind of breaks it down like the plain states and the woodland region and things like that. So that's really cool, and it gives kids a great visual. I believe in teaching kids geography from the get-go. My 5-year-old already knows like a bunch of different countries because we have a huge world map, and when we read stories from different countries, I try to point it out on the map. So she already knows a bunch of different countries. So yeah. Back to the lesson plan. So it's very easy. It tells you what to read that day, what pages for every book. So that's history and geography, read alouds, everything. And they have this extra space at the bottom, like I penciled in some extra things. And then it tells you exactly what to ask in your questions. So you read what they ask you to read. Then you just ask the questions. And me and my kids really just discuss it because, some stuff's kind of, I say some of it's a little bit hard for them to answer, so I just ask them what they think the answer is, and then I tell them, I guess what the answer is in here, and we just kind of talk about it, and I explain it to them better. Same thing. Oh, so if you get to one of the things on the lesson plan, and it has the little timeline figures, which are these. It has a little person. What that is they have this really cool timeline book, and they have these little figures you can buy. They're like stick-on. And so whenever your kids read about something, so let's say they're reading about Leif Erikson. So for a little kid to tell them, they came in year 14, whatever, they're not going to really understand that. So you can they go in their timeline. I'm trying to find okay, I'm not gonna dig too long, but anyway, so whatever year it is, so whatever timeline figure, you would stick it on that year. And they can keep this book forever. So, you know, this year you might cover certain dates, and then the next year you cover certain dates, and you keep putting these timeline figures in it every year. And this is like a keepsake of everything that they're gonna learn while they're in school. And I think this is really awesome way for them to visually see the order of events in which things are happening. So I am really excited about this book. We're actually going to put our first timeline figure in here tomorrow. So we haven't even got to do it yet. And I'm trying to see if there was anything else. So sometimes they'll just have, like, even down here I'll say parental notes. So there'll be certain notes they have in there. And so what I discovered, so the Bible history literature is right here. I had to actually go to the very back of my, I say the very back, the back of the instructor's guide is where I realized that the read alouds questions were. Because when I first looked at it, I'm like, okay, so we have, you know, history books we read in the questions, but I don't see the read alouds. Well, come to find out, it was in the back. So it tells you, you know, whatever book you're reading, like we're reading the Dolphin Adventure right now. So I come back here and it has all the questions to ask them. So it's really broken down for you. You don't have to sit there and be like, okay, what do I do? What books do I read? It's really broken down for you. They tell you everything to ask, everything to discuss, what to show them on the map. And of course you can adjust it to whatever you want. Like today we did, we were reading about the very first Indians, and we had discussed the Plains State Indians. Well, we had a bunch of little Indian, some things my mom got from an Indian reservation when she was younger. So I was able to show them different little artifacts like the arrowhead and a necklace and some little rings and different things like that that my mother had got from an Indian reservation. So that was really cool, like the visual. So let me dive now into the books, the rest of the books, okay? I guess I'll cover this real quick too. So if you're getting the language arts part of this curriculum, another thing I'm kind of doing on my own, but if you get it, the language arts lesson plans look like this. So for instance, week 1, it would say letters learned so far. So you're going to be studying letter F, and then you go to your my first picture dictionary, and then you find the page with the letter F. Where are we at? So this has F. So you discuss certain things and they tell you what to look at. And then you do letter pictures. So there's going to be extra things that come with the language arts. One of the things that comes with the language arts, or maybe it's just a little extra, but they tell you to read it in here. I got these Fun Tales books, and this is part of their language arts. So after you go, I guess, X amount of weeks, because you're learning, you know, the letter sounds and whatnot, you start on these little books, and they're not very long. They, of course, start off very, very simple. So Pam, bat, you know, let me see what the last page. You see, it's just very short. Bam. And then what's really cool about these books is every book has different animals. So this one's about a penguin, so it tells you some little facts about a penguin. And there's 27 of these books, and they get a little longer towards the end. So in the language arts, so for the first week, you're not really reading any books because you're learning your letters. So as you go further in, like week 10, it says read Fun Tales, read book number 1. And so you read that book with your child. So really cute. I just already had a reading program previously. That's the only reason I didn't buy it, because I've heard a lot of moms say they taught their kids to read with this program, but I already had a reading program because my mom actually used to be a teacher, so I already had something, and I didn't, you know, so just not to buy extra. But anyway, okay, so I'm gonna move on to the history. So this is my stack of history. So we have Abandoned on the Wild Frontier, and this is a chapter book with minimal pictures in it. This is The Amazing Impossible Erie Canal. And you'll notice some of my books, I have a lot of used books. My mom was a teacher, so I've accumulated a lot of books. So some of them have a little bit of marking on them. But isn't this really beautiful how the pages are so illustrated? I love picture books for this age because it really grabs their attention. So that's that one. Then we have maps and globes, which is kind of giving them the rundown on maps and how the first maps were made and what it's progressed into today. So it's kind of their getting to know about maps and globes, like to try and understand it. 3 Young Pilgrims. I have not got to read all these books yet, and I am super excited to read them. I can't even tell you how excited I am to read about all this, because I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of rusty on some of my history, and I know this is going to help me out. So you see tons of pictures. Love picture books. This set, I actually found some more of these at a library sale a couple weekends ago, so I snatched them up. So if you lived at the time of the Civil War, if you lived in colonial times. So what I really like about these books, so they are pictures, a lot of pictures in it. So like for instance, if you lived in the time of the Civil War, it says, you know, there's a bunch of different questions like, what did you eat if you lived up north? Or what did you eat if you lived down south? Or how was school if you lived up north? Or how was school if you lived down south during the war? So how did you support the war in the north? And then it would go, you know, the other way too. How did you support the war in the south? How did you entertain yourself? So a bunch of different, so you kind of get in the, both sides of the story, I guess you could say, how it was during those times. And then if you lived in colonial times, so all of these books, they'll ask questions like, what were the special Sunday laws? And how did 2 men travel when they only had 1 horse? So just different tidbits of information. So really cool. We just finished this one today. The Very First Americans. I liked it because, you know, they were the first Americans. They were the first ones here, and it shows how, you know, possible reasons why, how they got to be here. And then it shows like the Northwest Coast Indians. And then let's see, they have the Southwest, and then it talks about like the houses they lived in, how they hunted or what they mostly ate, how they defended themselves, the woodland Indians. So it's really neat how they show all this, because a lot of times people think of Indians and a lot of people just think of Plains Indians, but they don't really know all the different, you know, there's so many different tribes and different areas of the continent that they were living on. So, you know, they live very differently. Okay, How We Crossed the West, The Adventures of Lewis and Clark. Another picture book. Tons of beautiful pictures in here. I have not got to read this one yet, and this is, I mean, all of them I really want to read, but I really want to read this one. Okay, so George versus George. King George versus George Washington. I'm trying to see, okay, there, like, a bunch of pictures in here too. So a lot of information. You wouldn't want to be an American pioneer. And this is also a series of books. I bought a bunch of I found these at the same library sale. I bought a bunch of, you wouldn't want to be, you know, you wouldn't want to climb Mount Everest, or you wouldn't want to have traveled with Marco Polo, whatever. So there's a bunch of different of these books. And I like how cartoonish the characters are in these books. It makes it really cute and fun to me for a little kid to hold their attention. Okay, so this, y'all. I'm probably gonna do a video on just these 2 books. So these 2 books are actually Sonlight exclusives. So I watched a video about it. So they said that to cover everything they would have wanted to cover in history, for American history, they would have had to recommend so many books. It would have cost parents either hundreds to close, you know, maybe even a couple $1,000s to cover everything they wanted to cover. So they had the idea of, hey, why don't we make our own volumes? There'll be picture books. We'll have 2 volumes. There's going to be 30 stories in each, and it's going to cover from, you know, first Americas to modern day. So both volumes have tons of pictures, and the stories are not very long, but there's stories about all kinds of people in here. So Trying to find, so the Potter, which is David Drake, and then they have the Illustrator. So these are just some of them, and there's 2 volumes like this. And I like how they started with Leif Erikson instead of Christopher Columbus, because so many people just teach Christopher Columbus, but he wasn't the first one here. Same thing with this. So they have animals, and even in here there's a couple stories where I think there's one about a dog, one about like the Pony Express. Look, here's the one with the dog. So they have a bunch of different stories in here, and it's really neat. So even if you did not get anything else, or even if you have kids in an older grade, I would still buy these books. I think it's great. It highlights, you know, a lot of the main events in American history, and it's, I would say, fast read. So even if you have older kids, or you just need to brush up on your own American history, I would buy these. Okay, so that covers history. So now we're gonna move on to, I'm gonna show you really quickly the science. So long story short, the science was on back order for several months, and I wanted to start, so I kind of just started, and so I don't have all of the science. So I'm gonna show you what I do have and what I don't have. Okay, so part of the science for the kindergarten is they have a science experiment kit. So this is like the book, and it has detailed instructions of how to do the science experiment kit, like with big, beautiful pictures and everything. So you do science experiment kits. I don't know how often you do them. I don't know if it's it's probably like once a week that I would think you would do it. But this is an example of their lesson plans. So like with anything else, you know, you read, like this one's ants. So you read pages 3 through 5 on day 1, and then you do the activity questions. So there's activity questions that you do. And then, you know, the next day you do this, this, and this. And so on day 4 is when they do their first experiment, and it's why do ants build tunnels? And of course the discussion questions, just like you would with the history. So, and then they have, I'm gonna show you the books that I have and the books I don't have, like I said. So this is DK Science, Find Out Science. So this is one of the books I did not get in. And then they have Rainforest, Ants, and Bees and Wasps. These are Usborne books, and these are great beginner science books because I love the Usborne beginner science books. So this is one of those beginner science books, Reptiles. That's one of them I did get in that wasn't on back order whenever I ordered it. So you see tons of pictures, and it talks about, you know, this one's about reptiles. So of course the other ones were ants, rainforests, and bees and wasps. Why do elephants need the sun? So this is basically why do we need the sun. So this particular author, Robert E. Wells, has a whole series, which I bought all the books, but he kind of goes down the rabbit hole of things. So it'll start off like, why do elephants need sun? But it really is talking about way more than that, okay? And it's very, the books have a lot of pictures and a lot of information packed into these little books. The Magic School Bus Inside a Hurricane. So I was especially excited to get this one because we actually live where there's hurricanes quite often. So I thought it was great for my kids to be able to learn about hurricanes. From Seed to Plant. I've actually seen this on other curriculums too, from other people that homeschool curriculums, you know, like nature study and stuff. So I know this is going to be a good book. Forces Make Things Move. Again, you can see one of my used books, but try to open it up for y'all there. So pictures, and it's talking all about that, how things move, what makes it move. Probably like gravity. Yeah, I see space. Another one of those Usborne books. This one's weather. So these books have a lot of information, like I was saying, and a lot of pictures. Great little reference books. I don't want to say this wrong. Wangary's Tree of Peace. I did read this one. So basically, when she was living in Africa, she left to go to school in America, and when she came back, they had cut down most of the forest. and you know, the people were not doing good in those areas. A lot of them were starving and they didn't have enough food, and they worked them really hard. So she started planting trees. She actually went to prison for it, but she actually did make an impact because they started, you know, all kinds of people started planting trees, and they started growing and growing, and it really helped their economy and their livelihood because of her not being afraid, and she stood up for what she believed in. Okay, and this is the last science one. It's Little Kid's First Big Book of Why. This is pretty simple. So it's usually like 2 pages together, and it talks about a subject. Like, let me see. Why do birds have beaks? So it talks about why they have beaks. And why do squirrels bury acorns? And then there's even one like, why do old people have wrinkles? You know, why are people different colors? So a bunch of little information in there. So now I'm gonna move on to the last thing, which is the literature. Just the read alouds. So I'm currently reading this one, Dolphin Adventure. It's cute and it's not long. It's only, I probably could have seriously read this all in a day to them, you know, maybe broke it up a little bit, but it's a little chapter book and it only takes 4 days to finish. You do 2 chapters a day. Richard Scarry's Please and Thank You. Now, I love Richard Scarry. I actually have a bunch of other videos on Richard Scarry books that I did peep insides because I think they're great books for teaching young kids. Dolphin Treasure. Have not got to read most of these, but another little chapter book, and I'm thinking it goes along with the Dolphin Adventure. Anna Hibiscus. Okay, so I don't know what's really going on with this. I know that so this was part of their new curriculum, and I just looked on their site, and I think they might have still some, but I think they might be replacing Anna Hibiscus with something called the New Kid, I think because Usborne has decided to quit selling these, so I don't know. But I haven't got to read it yet, but I heard that they're really great books. So I'm excited to read them. The World According to Humphrey. So this is about a little hamster. And there's actually a bunch of, this is actually like a series. Alakai, Feelings. I love Alakai's books. So most of these books you just read a couple pages a day. So we're talking about feelings there. My Father's Dragon. I think there's even an audio book for this. I haven't read it yet, so I'm hoping it's really good. A Grain of Rice. Now I did read this one and I really liked it. I sat there and read it in one sitting. I have not read it to my kids yet. It's basically a story about a guy that was very motivated and he used his brain, his wisdom, to get what he wanted, which was he wanted to marry the emperor's daughter. Lulu and the Dog from the Sea. So you can see in this literature, there's a lot of chapter books. It's starting to get into more chapter books. Roxy and the Hooligans. I heard this was a really cute book too. So I'll be excited to read this one. I heard it's kind of funny and silly. Just Dance. And chapter book, this one doesn't have I don't even know if there's any pictures. The Boxcar Children. Now I have an older copy, but you know, the book you would get now would be a newer copy. But I've heard a lot of great things about the Boxcar Children. They actually have a huge series. Like, I don't know how many books are in it. It's a lot. I wouldn't doubt if there's like 40 something, 50 something books, but I heard many great things about the Boxcar Children. The Silver Balloon, another one that I heard that was really, really good. So I'm excited to read The Silver Balloon. Violet Mackerel's Brilliant Plot. So I did not read this one yet. You see, I'm even struggling to say the title. There's a couple little pictures in there. I'm just gonna say real quick, I actually made a video too on, I made it an activity box for every day of the week for my kids to do. That way when I'm reading these chapter books, they can choose to sit by me while I read, but they don't have to sit there perfectly still. They can entertain themselves with these activity boxes I made, and then I just ask the questions or ask some questions while I'm reading. So The Adventures of South Pole Pig. Said not too many pictures in there. Yeah, there's like a couple little things, but not too many. The Little House in the Big Woods. I am excited to start on this series of books. See some pictures in there. Another one, Love from Anna Hibiscus. Like I said, they may be replacing this because I think that Usborne just discontinued them, but they might still have some in stock. 26 Fairmont Avenue by Tommy DePaula. I really like Tommy DePaula's books. So some of these books are actually not included in the 4-day if you're doing the 4-day, which I'm doing. So I bought the 5-day book. So even though we're only doing 4-day, Monday through Thursday, I bought the 5-day books and I just penciled it in at the bottom, you know, to read like a chapter a day from each book until we get through all of them. Travels with My Family. Another chapter book. And then the last two, we're actually in the middle of reading this one. This one's called The Terrible Two. You can see my bookmark. And we haven't gotten too far into it yet. We're on we're getting to chapter 12. But it's about a boy named Miles that has to move because his mom wants to move to, I guess, some more out of the city, basically, like in the country. And he's a new kid in school, and the guy he has to follow around is Niles. And so anyway, it's kind of like their interaction and his trouble he gets into. And then the last one I want to show you is The Llama Who Had No Pajamas. So this is a book of poems. So it's a bunch of different poems that you're going to be reading to your kid or kids. I'm doing more than one. Well, I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you can watch some of my other homeschool videos. And if you enjoyed this, please share and subscribe to my channel and follow me on social media. You guys have a blessed day, and thanks for watching.